I'm not going to do anything that's not long-term sustainable. Well, that's insane, actually. People do really well off of like a reward system, right? So you go to work to get your paycheck, you know, and most people aren't going to have another 450 calories of complete junk food. I don't know about you, but let's say you go have some wings, which 450 calories, only a few wings. Wings are a lot of calories, but like there's some protein in there. There's some fats, probably not the best, but like, yeah, it's not a great thing to eat, but all your other food was really clean. So just understand that you can beat the system just by chance. The reason you can't stick to a diet is because you overcomplicate it. I've been training for so long and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And the number one thing that creates inconsistency with nutrition is people that worry about the nuances and honestly just overcomplicate their nutrition. Guys, you know, that statement is so true. I don't even know where to start. Actually, I do. That's why I'm doing this episode. But here's something to think about. Think about the last diet you did, right? The last, and when I say diet, I know people go, oh, I don't do diets. No, the last eating style nutrition program, I'm just going to use the word diet. When's the last time? Okay. And then I want you to be honest with yourself. How long did you actually stick to it? Okay. Like, was it like a few months? Was it a few years? Was it a few days? Was it a few weeks? For most people that do a diet, I'm doing air quotes if you can't see me. It's very specific to like, you can have this and you can't have this. That's usually what it is, right? Like keto, paleo, carnivore, Whole30. And I get it. Like I understand where that comes from, and I'm going to dive into what diet I think is best for you to stick on long-term. So don't go anywhere. But one thing that I've realized is the more simplistic you make your diet, the longer you're going to be able to stay on it, period. And for me, I don't really want to do any diet. And I, in general, don't want to do any exercise program I can't stick on long-term. Now, with that being said, that statement, the last one is a little bit controversial, and I'm going to break this down for you. Some people say, well, I'm not going to do anything that's not long-term sustainable. Well, that's insane, actually. When you think about that statement, I know I just said it, but I'm doing it for controversy. When you make that statement, that's like saying, I'm never going to like get to a point in my life where I really, really dial in my spending and I live super frugal if I can't do that forever, right? It's also like saying, well, I'm never going to get to a point in my life where I don't spend a little bit of extra money and have fun if I can't live that life, that same vacation lifestyle every week. It's ridiculous, right? There's ebbs and flows and there's chapters for every period in your life. And so that's why, you know, I think there are times where you can sit there and be a little more dialed in with your nutrition. You can be a little more restrictive. You can have your training ramped up or your training ramped back. But the long-term sustainability thing really looks like, hey, what do I do most of the time? If I were to take 85% of my life, I don't know how old you are, how long you're going to live, but if I'm going to take 85 to 80% of my life, what do I eat on a day-to-day basis? 80% of the time, right? Like that's the real equation. And if you look at a year span, so January to January, and in January you do keto and you're really strict for 30 days, and then you kind of just eat like you normally do for 3 months, and then you get back on, you do it for 2 weeks. It's like, what are you eating most of the year, 80% of the year? And honestly, it's probably just the traditional Western diet. And maybe you're eating like crap or you're not holding yourself accountable. So instead of doing these periods of ultra restrictive, overcomplicated nutrition, and I know some people feel that, you know, doing a diet or like keto is like, oh, it's not complicated at all. You just don't eat carbs. I'm going to break down why it's a little bit more complicated and how to find something sustainable. So I look at like, well, what can I do for 80% of the year, 85% of the year that I don't hate? Like, what is that for me? Is that keto? Is that paleo? Is that Whole30? Is it carnivore? Like, what does that look like for me? Sorry, let me adjust my mic a little bit. For me, I know what that is. Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story because I've tried every single diet that you can think of, guys. I have tried all those things that I mentioned: paleo, keto, Whole30, carnivore. I've tried all of them. I've even tried being a vegan and vegetarian short amount of time for like 30 days or less because I wanted to just know like how it felt, what it did to my body. I do think everybody's different, But I do think inherently there are some like quote unquote diets that do work better for the vast majority of individuals. And I would strongly suggest don't out yourself. A lot of people are like, well, that diet doesn't work for me. You don't understand. You don't know. Okay, fine. But here's the thing. Um, Simplicity doesn't necessarily mean that your diet like needs to be 100% as well. Like when I'll give you some background. I generally eat paleo style foods, meats, nuts, fruits, vegetables. I'm very open about this. One of our coaches, Mike, one of our tactical performance coach, he's a lot more carnivore. Now, does Mike go 100% strict carnivore all the time? No, he does not. Do I go 100% paleo all the time? No. In fact, I haven't done that for like several years. And the reason is I've done it. I've been 30, 60 days on paleo, like literally nothing besides meats, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. And I understood that when I was on it, my mind was always thinking, hey, when is this going to end? This is kind of brutal. I'm not able to have these things. I'm not really fully enjoying my life. And here's the thing. When I did 30, 60 days of it, I looked great. I felt great. There were some benefits. My skin was super clear. But like, I don't have to be 100%. I could be 90-10. I could be 85-15. I could be 80-20. Doesn't really matter. But I'm looking at like, well, what can I do on a week to week basis that's not this like ginormous mental battle? Okay. For me, it's like an 85-15. So 85% of the time, almost all my foods are meats and fruits. I sprinkle in some veggies, and once in a while I have some grains, right? And I recently started adding back in more yogurt and dairy, but I will say that like there's some adverse effects to that for me, for my body. I tend to get more pimples, and it's not as, makes my skin not as clear. So I can't have 5 things of Greek yogurt every day. I have to kind of limit it. And some of that is a little bit of trial and error. So you might ask, well, why did you pick that, Stefan? Well, here's the thing. Number one, it's the diet that I can stick to long-term. Like 6 out of 7 days, I can eat the same foods. I can make it very easy for myself. Okay. So, and here's the thing, while I'm on it, there's no mental battle. It's not like, oh, this is hard. Like I talk to people that are on carnivore, and the first week or two suck. Then the third week, they're like, oh, it's getting a little bit better. Then the fourth week. But here's the thing. If I talk to that same person 8 months from now, they're probably not on strict carnivore anymore. There's some people that do it. And hey, look, if that's you, more freaking power to you. Go crush it. But for the vast majority of people, it's not a long-term sustainable thing. Either is keto, either is these like 100% diets, even paleo. Okay. Now paleo it's a wider diet, right? You're like, oh, you can have carbs and fats, and you can have all 3 macros, and you can eat a lot of stuff within meats, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. But here's the thing. I don't know about you guys, but if my son's like, hey, let's go get frozen yogurt, I don't want to be like, dude, that's not on my diet. I don't want to live a life like that. If my wife says, hey, let's go get pizza, which we don't do very often, I want to be able to have a slice. And a lot of people are like, nope, I'm on carnivore. I can't touch that. And look, I love the discipline. I love it. I love it. I love it. I am somebody that is like, let's go 100%. I love not budging. But here's the thing. I just chose that I wasn't going to live my life like that, because I knew that I could still have an amazing physique, perform well, feel well. The one piece of pizza is not going to like completely ruin my body. For some people, they will. They're sensitive to dairy and wheat and all this stuff, or they have celiac disease. Okay, don't have pizza. But for me, I'm okay. I can have it. Like I'll be fine. I just limit myself. And honestly, I like it because I think people do really well off of like a reward system, right? So you go to work to get your paycheck. You go to work month after month to eventually take a vacation. I'm not saying this is like a cheat meal is like a food vacation, but it is easier for me to sit there and say, hey, when I go on date night on Friday, I'm going to kind of like take my diet and just kind of have what I want. I'm not going to eat like a complete freaking teenager and just have like every piece of junk food in sight. But like, if I want a burger and a beer, I'm going to have it. Why? Because you win at numbers with nutrition, right? If I were to eat, and I actually like wrote it down because I'm going to butcher this. If I were to eat 3,000 calories a day, okay, 85% of those calories were quote unquote clean, right? Meats, nuts, fruits, vegetables, maybe low glycemic index carbs. So maybe some oats, some sweet potatoes, like very clean. Okay. That means that only 15% of your daily calories is left to jack everything up, right? So no matter what, 2,550 calories are optimal for performance, burning fat, building muscle, all the things you want to do. You know, you eating another 450 calories of like maybe not the most optimal food is not going to kill you. Now, if your other 450 calories were just Starbucks Frappuccino and it's just all sugar and carbs, yeah, that's not a really good ratio. But even then, the vast majority, 85% of your nutrition was exactly what it was supposed to be. Eating for performance, eating for good fuel for your body. You know, and most people aren't going to have another 450 calories of complete junk food. I don't know about you, but let's say you go have some wings, which 450 calories, only a few wings. Wings are a lot of calories, but like there's some protein in there. There's some fats, probably not the best, but like, yeah, it's not a great thing to eat, but all your other food was really clean. So just understand that you can beat the system just by chance, right? It's almost like if you were to, going back to money, if you were to save up for a whole year and then for 1 week you were to just splurge on your money, dude, you had so much saved up that yeah, you spent a lot of money in a week, but like 1 week out of 52 weeks, right? Or 4 weeks, I don't know what the percentage is, I probably should have wrote it down, but like 85% of the year you were really, really, really tight on your budget and you were on point. 15% of the year spending a little bit extra, right? If you go and you spend everything and try to empty your bank account, you're going to do it, right? Just like if you purposefully go and you try to eat like an asshole, excuse my language, you're going to sit there and you're going to gain weight because you're going to eat over 3,000 calories. But it's a numbers thing, guys. And that should be, I think that should be a relief because a lot of people get food anxiety. It's a very real thing. They're anxious about food because they're like, oh my God, I can eat this. I can't eat this. And they put these restrictions on themselves. And look, you should have boundaries with nutrition. Okay. I know somebody like, I'm not going to drink alcohol. Great. You shouldn't. It's poison. But like, I like poison beer sometimes, right? Like alcohol is not good for you. There's no physical benefit whatsoever. I'm not against drinking. I like beer. I had a beer last weekend. Like, but there's no physical benefit. Everything else nutritionally, it is providing you with some type of fuel. Now, if you're 50 pounds overweight and you're trying to lose weight, those extra 450 calories, if they're coming from a Starbucks Frappuccino, yeah, that's not good. That's like the worst thing you could have had the 450 calories in. But like, if you're not doing that, you'll be okay. And even if you are, you'll probably be okay because your calories are set at what you're trying to do. Are you trying to maintain, bulk, whatever? We have clients in our program right now that are like at a 500 calorie deficit. They do the same rule. Hey, let's just say they're supposed to eat 3,500 calories for maintenance, but now they're at 3,000 calories. So they're at a 500 calorie deficit. They're eating 500 calories less than they need to. So they would be burning fat. If they followed the same thing and they did have a Starbucks Frappuccino, in theory, they would still be losing weight because yeah, it's not the best source of energy. It's a lot of sugar, high glycemic, just like cane sugar and whatever the heck is in the Frappuccino. Yeah, it's not going to be good. But like, would they still lose body fat? Yeah, in theory, right? And here's the thing. If I told a client like every day, and I would never condone this, by the way, but if I'm like, hey, every day you can have your little Frappuccino, but your other nutrition has to look exactly like that, somebody's more likely to stick to that. I do believe that. They're like, okay, I could do that. So if I eat super clean and I go get my workout at the end of the day, I can reward myself with this treat. Yes. And you can still lose weight. And then I would ask them, how long do you think you could keep that up? And they would probably say, and I know because I've had this conversation, dude, I could do that forever. Bingo, right? Like that's what we want to do because that is a long-term sustainable solution. And again, numbers are on our side because we have time. If you were to do an ultra restricted diet, you're like, Stefan, how dare you condone a Starbucks Frappuccino? I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, let's look at the math. If you sit there and you're like, well, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm only going to go carnivore. I'm only going to eat clean. I'm like, okay, cool. Do it for 60 days. This is what most people do, 30 to 60 days. And then it's so restrictive. They feel like they're missing out socially. They hate it. And then they just like go the other way. They're like, F it. And they just kind of binge. I would rather have somebody say, let me have the Frappuccino every day. Let me have the little pieces of candy. Like I have some dark chocolate at night. I might have a couple pieces of my son's Halloween candy. And I do reward myself for eating clean all day. If I removed those things, would it be better for my physique and performance? Yes. But I would also ask you like how long I could do that. And I would probably say, oh, I mean, I guess I could do it for like a few months, but I would start wanting some sweets. Okay, don't even do that mental battle. Just find something you can do all year. because you have Susie over here that sticks to carnivore or keto or whatever, ultra restrictive, has no cheats, has no junk food. She only keeps it for 30 days. Then you have Susie number 2 that has some cheat stuff in there, has some things that are maybe not as healthy, but she's like, it's such a small percentage, but I could do this all year. Cool. 2 months, 12 months. Which one's going to get better results long term? Susie 2, especially because you can't win at fitness. So here's some action steps, right? Number 1, I want you to pick 1 to 3 breakfast, lunch, and snacks that have about the same macros. So like for me, I eat 2 to 3 variations of my breakfast, same macros. Okay. Basically within the same macros, different flavors of oatmeal. Maybe I'll use mixed berries with my yogurt. Maybe the next day I'll do like a cinnamon honey, whatever. Okay. Same macros, 3 variations. That way I never have to think about my breakfast. I just say, oh, am I going to have breakfast 1, 2, or 3 today, depending on what I feel. Basically the same macros. So same amount of protein, carbs, and fats. Again, it doesn't mean I have to, it makes it so I don't have to track my stuff really. I'm like, I know what's in there. You're going to do the same thing for lunch. You're going to do the same thing for your snack. And then for dinner is kind of my like wild card, right? That's where I have to actually weigh out my stuff, measure it. Everything else is already kind of pre-tracked. And I just basically eat the same stuff throughout the week. Here's the thing. Some people are like, oh, I can't do that. Yeah, maybe not the exact same meal, but like don't do 1 to 3, do 1 to 6, 1 to 6 meals. If like in anybody's house, they're not eating different stuff every single like day, right? Most people kind of cycle through the same couple meals. So just do that. If you're like, well, I work a night shift or, that won't work for me. It doesn't matter what meal. Have like 85% of your meals look the same. Cycle through them. For me, I'm okay. I basically eat the same 1 or 3 breakfasts. Lunch is maybe a little more variation, maybe the same 1 or 4, but I know my macros. They're already set, so I don't have to think about like prepping things. And, that's probably one of the most beneficial things. The second thing I mentioned is pick that choice meal, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's your breakfast. Maybe it's your lunch. Maybe it's your dinner, depending on your lifestyle and where you work. For me, I feel like dinner is one of those variations where I try to have family dinner. My wife cooks it. I don't really have like too much control, but I do make my own breakfast. I do kind of prep my own lunch, and then a snack, protein shake and a banana. It's super easy. And it's just less tracking. And the less I have to track my macros, I also know the longer I will do it. Again, I always ask myself, Stefan, the way you're eating right now, could you do this all year long? And the answer is yes, right? Does it mean that I never have times where I'm dialed in a little bit more? Well, of course I do, right? I'm a little like, oh, I have a cruise coming up. I'm going to dial in. But I want to know that I could do this for the vast majority of time, right? And the last thing is just have a reward, right? So for me, end of the night, I have some candy. I have a sweet tooth. I could sit there and cut it out, but I just don't want to, because it actually makes me want to work out harder and do that, because I think people do really well off rewards, okay? So here's a couple objections. And last minute, people will say, well, I struggle sticking to it because there's so much junk food in my house. Okay, go throw it out. That's action step number 1. Just go throw it away. I know it sucks. And then next time, don't buy it because you're a grown ass adult and you're responsible for what goes in your cart. Stop blaming your family and be like, well, my kids, cool. I've been there too. I've been a parent my whole entire adult life. If your kids feel like, you have to have this in there, put it in a separate cupboard, lock it. Don't ever go in that cupboard. It's not yours, right? And the third thing is just set a standard for your family. Hey, we're going to eat healthy. My family knows we go out, we have some junk food, we have some desserts, but most of the time we're eating meal prep, healthy food. They get it. Okay. So I appreciate it, guys. I love you. If you want to like, comment, subscribe. I know this episode was a little bit fast. My memory card's about to run out. It really helps the episode, just grow, guys, and this podcast grow. So hopefully these action steps help. Guys, don't overcomplicate your nutrition. This is how you're going to simplify it. You could do all this in 7 days or less very, very easily. It takes a little bit of time. Sit on one day, plan things out, and you'll be 100% good to go. And if you need more help, hit my team up, go to our website, go to the link in bio, and you're going to have a coach do this all for you, right? We'll help you along the path so you actually don't have to think about all this. So if this sounds super overcomplicated, let me know, okay? And me and my team will help you do this, and you're going to get transformations just like all of our 600 plus people we've done over the last 3 years. I love you guys. My name's Stefan Coons, and I'll chat with you soon.